we look at the shape of the South African economy that's expected to feature strongly in the State of the Nation address later this evening. Economists are expecting more tangible frameworks on dealing with the likes of electricity as well as logistical challenges that are weighing heavy on an already fragile environment. BDO Director for Strategic Development and Advisory, Christelle Grohman, says expectations are high, and we speak to her now. She joins us virtually. Christelle, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's start by unpacking the likelihood of a framework that is meant to build a conducive environment in South Africa where logistics and energy is concerned from the SONA.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me on the show. Yes, as we say, there's a lot that is expected. I'm not sure that this SONA is going to give us all that we would want to hear. We are getting to an election here. So from my personal viewpoint, I think we will probably see a lot of status feedback of where we've gotten to, what programs have been undertaken and where are they in their schedules. Maybe not so much any new plans to be undertaken, but mostly for those that have been put on the ground for, and some of them for over many years now that we've been hearing about, just where are they in the process and how will this affect the nation going forward for this year and obviously into the future. You mentioned logistics and energy. It is probably one of our biggest elements that we've got to deal with because it affects the entire economy and our ability to be able to expand the economy and create further jobs and just also get our economy into those sectors that are important globally and not just in South Africa. So when we get into more of the digital sectors and those economies, so that is my sort of indication, just that not expecting a very big sort of new plans.
What's disappointing is that the political rhetoric leading up to the elections is likely to stay the same, but what then should be said about the need at an immediate stage for the South African economy? The likes of the World Bank, the IMF, including our own Reserve Bank, have forecast growth at less than 2%. 1% of growth is not nearly enough of what the current climate is in need of, especially if we are looking to move away from a social grant dispensation at a large scale to creating jobs.
So if we look around the many aspects around, say, the infrastructure fund that has been noted over time, particularly more so in the last 3 years, if we look around the indication of bringing on board private sector more and more to deliver on some of these needs, because a government just cannot do it by itself. In order to achieve better growth, a really more of a smooth sailing process, improving that process and making sure that it actually moves forward faster would help. Because we do have plans. There are certain plans in place, be it logistics, be it NHI, be it hospitals. There are so many plans, but we are stuck in the planning phase for a very long time before we get move on. I see more recently some of the facilitating agencies have been expanded. So before you used to have Treasury through the GTAC entity, as well as DBSA mostly involved with a lot of the bigger infrastructure projects. I see this has now been expanded into the IDC. So that's a good point, because then we're making sure that we move the bottlenecks as fast as possible and be able to get those projects out to the market so that the market can deal with them. The investors tell us that there's money, they are interested in good projects. So that is probably one of the biggest things that we need for this economy to move, is to make these things a reality rather than just a planning point or a talking point.
Christelle, is there an expectation of the President to address at a tangible level the private partnerships that they have with the state that are meant to be driving the same agenda that you've just alluded to?
Yes, there is. And these private parties and PPPs have been around. For instance, we want to take it specifically to PPPs, but it could be other structures also that can be used. But it's been around for a long time. We just have not had that good a way of making sure that it gets through the processes, that we don't stop only at feasibilities that are not then taken forward into procurement. So we're really hoping to see a lot of that fast track, maybe looking at some of the legislation that did start last year to look at some of the PPP legislation, but now maybe being a lot more keen on making it as smooth sailing as possible, while still making it a robust process, so that we can get these teams. And then once you have the streams in place and there is more flow, we will see investors coming forward, as they've done in the renewable energy. There we know we've had interest shown through each of the rounds that has worked in most cases quite well, but it needs to be more and consistently more of that. We also need to just look at capacity issues within government that is maybe holding up those processes. Where do we take those away? I know that you can appoint obviously private transaction advisors to help, but it does not take away some of the stumbling blocks within government, even if you have a transaction advisor in the process, because decisions still need to be made within government. So it is just those decision processes. Is there money? Absolutely. Is there interest? Yes, there's interest, but you need to have good projects. That still is the important point.
Speaking of money, politics go hand in hand with economics, and a very, very prominent time to be speaking of the correlation between the two, because the State of the Nation address does not only set the agenda for the political year, an election year, but it is ahead of the budget that is expected later this month. How much of South Africa's fiscus and what we have in our purse as a state is expected to be setting the tone?
Well, I mean, South Africans fit the purse a lot, and I think what has happened is we've had definitely a decrease in investment, which means it's more individuals that is fitting the purse. Things have been tighter for individuals, so that we can see that in the economy generally. So it would also be good to look at how do we assist some of those individuals while still maintaining the coffers, but assist individuals in being able to live and live well, and then to deal obviously with the big grant purse that we need and is important. But how do we make all of this more functional? I keep on coming back down to practical issues. Let's find the practical reasons. I want to sort of bring maybe something totally different on board here. Yeah. You know, in all of the SONAs over the last 5 years, I think 5 years specifically, we keep on talking about e-visas, and how can we make the visa system so we can get more tourists in, so we can create more money for the country. Now, we've expanded, we introduced the e-visa, we've expanded the number of countries, but the actual system is not necessarily that different from the manual system. So yes, now you can apply online, but behind the scenes, the system is still the old system. It's the manual system. So whatever was there, if it is a capacity issue at Home Affairs, if it is interaction between Home Affairs and SARS or Department of Labour when it comes to work visas, those things have not been improved. So it still is just taking too long. We cannot get enough of these through, and we are just affecting the ability for us to drive business. So it really is, for me, let's go back and look at those blocking points that we can take away, just to make it a reality and make it practical.
Thank you so much for your insights. Christelle Grohman is with BDO in our build-up to the State of the Nation address, talking politics as a way of balancing with economics.